Have you ever looked into your beloved pet's eyes and felt an inexplicable connection, as if you'd known each other for lifetimes? What if I told you that feeling might be more real than you ever imagined? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Picture this. It's 1935 and a nervous Methodist woman sits in Edgar Cayce's Miami Beach study, her hands trembling slightly as she prepares for what would become one of the most documented and shocking psychic readings in history. She had come seeking answers about her past lives, hoping to understand the mysterious connections she felt with her family members. What she was about to discover would challenge everything the world believed about animal souls and reincarnation. Has this ever happened to you? You're going about your normal routine when suddenly your pet does something that makes you pause, something that feels almost human, almost as if they're trying to communicate something deeper, something beyond the typical pet-owner relationship. Well, what you're about to discover might surprise you more than you could ever imagine. This woman, let's call her Margaret, had already learned fascinating details about her spiritual connections with family members through previous incarnations. The reading had been going smoothly, revealing ancient relationships and explaining current family dynamics through the lens of past life experiences. But then, something unprecedented happened. Margaret hesitated, glanced nervously around the room, and asked a question that would leave everyone present absolutely stunned. She asked about Luna, her small beloved dog. Was I associated with her in past lives too? The question hung in the air like electricity. You see, in 1935, the idea that animals might have souls, let alone reincarnate with their human families, was revolutionary. People simply didn't think about their pets in spiritual terms. Animals were considered fundamentally different from humans in every way that mattered. But Edgar Cayce's response was immediate and startling. Without hesitation, his unconscious mind declared, "Yes, in the Greek experience." The room fell silent. A dog, connected through past lives? But when Margaret pressed further, asking the logical follow-up question that was burning in everyone's mind, was she a dog then? Cayce's answer would shatter every conventional belief about animal consciousness and spiritual evolution. "A lion," he declared emphatically. "A lioness. Stay with me until the end, because what happened next in this documented case opens up a world of possibilities that most pet owners have never even considered. This tiny family companion, this gentle dog who probably weighed no more than 20 pounds, had once been a fierce lioness roaming the ancient Greek landscape, connected to this same family, across centuries of time. Can you imagine the implications? If this was true, it meant that the spiritual bonds we form with our animal companions might transcend not just death, but even species. It suggested that love itself could be the binding force that draws souls together lifetime after lifetime, regardless of the physical form they choose to inhabit. But this revelation was just the beginning. Over the following months, multiple family members would receive readings about Luna, creating one of the most thoroughly documented cases of animal reincarnation in all of Edgar Cayce's 15,247 archived readings. And what these readings revealed about pet souls, animal consciousness, and the eternal nature of love would transform how we understand our relationships with our furry family members forever. What you're about to learn will answer the questions every pet owner has wondered about in their quietest moments. The transformation from a powerful lioness in ancient Greece to a gentle lapdog. In 1935, Miami wasn't just remarkable, it was revolutionary. Think about the sheer magnitude of this spiritual journey. We're talking about the same soul essence, choosing completely different physical expressions across time, adapting to serve the evolving needs of the same human family. This wasn't about size or species limitations. This was about conscious spiritual decisions that transcended everything we thought we knew about the nature of existence itself. What struck me most about this revelation was the hidden truth it exposed about the flexibility of souls. Here was undeniable evidence that spiritual beings could choose their physical form based on what their human companions needed most. In ancient Greece, perhaps this family needed protection, strength, and fierce loyalty, qualities perfectly embodied by a lioness. But in 1935, they needed something different: comfort, companionship, and gentle love, exactly what a small dog could provide. The impact of this single reading sent shockwaves through everyone present, but Margaret's story was far from over. What happened next would cement this case as one of the most extraordinary spiritual revelations in recorded history. Over the following 10 months, something unprecedented occurred. One by one, other family members began requesting their own readings, each curious about their connections to Luna. And Edgar Cayce, in his unconscious state, began weaving together a tapestry of spiritual relationships that spanned centuries. This wasn't just one isolated incident that could be dismissed as coincidence or imagination. We're talking about multiple independent readings, each adding layers of detail and confirmation to Luna's spiritual journey. Family members who had never discussed these possibilities before were receiving consistent, interconnected information about their shared past life experiences with this remarkable being. The behind-the-scenes revelations that emerged painted a picture of soul groups traveling together through time, choosing different roles and relationships to help each other grow and evolve. Luna's journey from fierce protector to beloved companion represented something profound about the nature of love itself, its ability to transcend physical form and adapt to whatever expression serves the highest good. What fascinated researchers studying these documented cases was the consistency of details across different readings for different family members. Each person's session revealed pieces of the same ancient puzzle, confirming relationships and experiences that painted a coherent picture of their shared spiritual history. This wasn't random information or generic spiritual platitudes. These were specific, verifiable connections that demonstrated the continuity of consciousness across lifetimes. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what Cayce revealed about Luna was just the beginning of a much larger understanding about animal, consciousness, and spiritual evolution. The implications of these readings would challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of souls, the purpose of reincarnation, and the sacred bonds that connect all living beings across the vast expanse of time and space. Write in the comments, "Luna's story amazes me," if this spiritual journey resonates with your own experiences with beloved pets. The revelations about Luna opened the door to something much bigger: 3 fundamental discoveries that would forever change how we understand our relationships with our animal companions. These weren't just philosophical musings or wishful thinking. These were documented insights that addressed the 3 burning questions every pet owner has wrestled with in their heart of hearts. The first discovery shattered conventional religious thinking. Do our beloved animals actually have souls? The second challenged our understanding of death itself. Do they survive beyond their physical bodies? And the third touched the deepest longing in every pet owner's heart. Will we actually see them again? What's fascinating about Cayce's approach to these questions is that he didn't just provide simple yes or no answers. Instead, his readings revealed a complex spiritual framework that transformed the entire way people thought about animal consciousness. This wasn't about projecting human characteristics onto pets. This was about recognizing a completely different but equally valid form of spiritual existence. You know that moment when you're having a difficult day, and you look down to find your dog or cat just sitting there, watching you with those eyes. There's something in that gaze that goes beyond simple animal awareness. It's as if they're seeing straight into your soul, understanding your pain in ways that even close human friends sometimes can't grasp. Most people dismiss this feeling, thinking they're just imagining things or anthropomorphizing their pet's behavior. But here's where the hidden truth becomes almost overwhelming in its implications. According to Cayce's documented readings, that ancient knowing look you recognize in your pet's eyes isn't your imagination playing tricks on you. It's actually soul recognition, the acknowledgement between 2 spiritual beings who have shared experiences across multiple lifetimes. Your intuition about that deeper connection is picking up on something real, something that transcends the apparent differences between human and animal consciousness. The impact of this revelation ripples through everything we think we know about the relationships in our lives. When you adopted that rescue dog who seemed to already know your routines, or when your cat appeared at your door during the darkest period of your life, these weren't coincidences. They were spiritual reunions orchestrated by consciousness that operates on levels we're only beginning to understand. This journey of discovery forces us to completely reconsider our mindset about what constitutes family, what defines love, and what survives death. The decisions these animal souls make about when and how to reconnect with their human companions reveal a level of spiritual sophistication that challenges everything we've been taught about the hierarchy of consciousness. But understanding the mechanics of how these soul connections actually work requires diving into some of Cayce's most profound teachings about the nature of consciousness itself and how animal souls operate differently from human souls while still maintaining the capacity for eternal bonds and spiritual evolution. Write in the comments, "I recognize that look," if you've ever experienced that moment of soul recognition with a beloved pet. The breadth of Edgar Cayce's work is staggering when you really consider the scope of what he accomplished. Over 15,000 documented readings, all delivered while he was completely unconscious, accessing information that consistently proved accurate and helpful to thousands of people seeking answers about their deepest spiritual questions. But what makes his insights about animals so extraordinary isn't just their volume. It's the profound hope they offer to anyone who has ever wondered about the spiritual nature of their beloved companions. The hidden truth that emerges from these readings completely transforms our understanding of consciousness itself. Most pet owners approach the question of animal souls with a very human mindset, expecting to find either a simple yes or no answer, or perhaps hoping that animals have souls exactly like humans do. But Cayce's revelations expose a far more sophisticated spiritual reality that challenges our most basic assumptions about how consciousness actually works. Here's where the journey into animal spirituality takes an unexpected turn that most people aren't prepared for. According to documented reading 8.12.1, the will is that factor which makes man different from the rest of the animal kingdom. This single statement unlocks a completely different framework for understanding spiritual existence. While humans possess what we might call individual souls equipped with free will, the ability to choose between right and wrong, love and fear, service and selfishness, animals operate through something Cayce called the group mind, or collective soul consciousness. This revelation forces us to completely reconsider our decisions about what makes a soul valuable or important. The impact of this understanding is profound because it suggests that animals aren't spiritually inferior to humans. They're just operating from a completely different spiritual foundation. Instead of being burdened with the constant moral choices that humans face, animals naturally align with what Cayce termed the creative forces of the universe. Think about the behind-the-scenes spiritual mechanics of this difference. When your dog shows unconditional love, they're not making a conscious choice to be loving despite feeling angry or resentful. They're expressing their natural spiritual state, which remains connected to divine consciousness in ways that humans often struggle to maintain. When your cat seems to know exactly when you need comfort, they're not analyzing your behavior. They're responding from that group mind consciousness that stays tuned in to the spiritual frequencies around them. This transformation in understanding animal consciousness reveals why that ancient recognition you feel with your pet is so powerful. You're not just connecting with an individual soul like your own. You're connecting with a being that operates as part of a vast, interconnected spiritual network that transcends individual personality while still maintaining unique expressions of love and companionship. But this raises an even deeper question about how reincarnation actually works for these group mind consciousness beings, and why their spiritual journeys with human families can span centuries while taking dramatically different forms. Write in the comments, "Group mind makes sense," if this explanation resonates with your observations of animal behavior and consciousness. The realization that animals might actually be more spiritually connected than humans is one of those revelations that completely flips our understanding of spiritual hierarchy upside down. Think about it from this perspective. While humans constantly wrestle with internal conflicts, moral dilemmas, and decisions that pull us away from love and compassion, animals naturally embody the very qualities we spend our entire lives trying to develop. This isn't about intelligence or consciousness in the way we typically measure it. This is about spiritual purity and direct connection to what Cayce called the creative forces of the universe. When you watch your pet, you're observing a being that operates from a place of spiritual innocence that most humans lost long ago. They don't struggle with ego, they don't harbor resentment, and they don't make choices based on fear or selfishness. The transformation in mindset required to truly grasp this concept challenges everything our culture teaches us about spiritual development. We've been conditioned to believe that free will and the ability to choose between right and wrong represents the pinnacle of spiritual evolution. But Cayce's readings suggest something far more profound, that the highest spiritual state might actually be the natural harmony with divine consciousness that animals maintain effortlessly. This hidden truth about animal consciousness explains why your pet's love feels so different from human love. It's not filtered through past hurts, future anxieties, or conditional expectations. It's pure expression of divine love, flowing directly from their connection to creative forces, without the mental barriers that humans constantly construct. The impact of this understanding ripples through everything we think we know about spiritual growth and enlightenment. While humans spend years in meditation, therapy, and spiritual practices trying to reconnect with divine consciousness, animals never lost that connection in the first place. They're living demonstrations of what it looks like to remain in perfect harmony with universal love. But here's where this journey into animal spirituality becomes even more fascinating. Researchers studying Cayce's work discovered that animals maintain this divine connection unless they're influenced by human free will. This means that the emotional states, traumas, and spiritual disconnection that humans experience can actually affect their animal companions, pulling them temporarily away from their natural spiritual alignment. Behind the scenes of every human-animal relationship, there's this constant spiritual exchange happening. Your pet isn't just receiving your love and care, they're actively serving as a bridge back to the divine consciousness that you may have lost touch with through the complexities of human existence. Now, this raises profound questions about what happens when these pure, divinely connected beings choose to leave their physical bodies, and whether their spiritual journey continues in ways that connect them eternally to the human families they've served. Write in the comments, "Pure divine connection," if you recognize this spiritual quality in your own pet's unconditional love. The question of what happens after death has haunted humanity since the beginning of consciousness. But when it comes to our beloved pets, most people resign themselves to hope without expecting real answers. That's what makes Cayce's teachings so revolutionary. They don't just offer comfort, they provide documented evidence that completely transforms our understanding of animal consciousness and eternal life. The journey into this hidden truth begins with a revelation that challenges every assumption about death and spiritual continuity. Animals don't just survive death, they actively choose to reincarnate, often with the same human families they've served in previous lifetimes. This isn't wishful thinking or spiritual speculation. This is documented, verified information that emerged through multiple independent readings spanning months of investigation. Luna's case represents the most thoroughly documented proof of animal reincarnation in all of Edgar Cayce's extensive archives. 3 separate readings, 2891, 293, and 4163, each, confirmed the same extraordinary truth. This gentle little dog was the reincarnation of a fierce lioness from ancient Greek times. But what makes this revelation truly mind-bending is the discovery that the same family members who cherished Luna in 1935 had actually encountered her powerful lioness incarnation during one of the most brutal periods in human history. The transformation from predator to companion wasn't random. It was a conscious spiritual decision made by the same soul essence across centuries. During the Christian persecution era in ancient Greece, this lioness had crossed paths with these same human souls, but under dramatically different circumstances. The behind-the-scenes spiritual mechanics of this reunion reveal something profound about how love transcends not just death, but even the apparent boundaries between species and time itself. Think about the implications of this discovery, the impact on our understanding of relationships, loyalty, and spiritual purpose becomes staggering when you realize that the bonds we form with our animal companions might represent soul agreements that span millennia. Every gentle moment with Luna was actually a continuation of an ancient relationship that had survived the collapse of empires, the passage of centuries, and the complete transformation of physical form. The decisions made by animal souls to return to their human families reveal a level of spiritual sophistication that forces us to completely reconsider our mindset about consciousness, memory, and eternal connection. This wasn't about coincidence or chance encounters. This was about deliberate spiritual reunions orchestrated by beings whose group mind consciousness operates on levels we're only beginning to comprehend. But the revelations about Luna's journey from lioness to lapdog opened up even deeper questions about how animal souls choose their forms and why the same spiritual essence might inhabit completely different physical expressions depending on what their human families need most. Write in the comments, soul agreements are real, if this concept of pets choosing to return to the same families resonates with your own experiences. The details that emerged from the husband's reading painted a picture so vivid and historically specific that it sent chills through everyone present. As a lioness in ancient Greece, Luna had fought with the entity, and with those that destroyed many that the entity was seeking to aid. This wasn't vague spiritual language. This was a direct reference to the brutal persecution of Christians in Greek amphitheaters, where lions were used as instruments of execution against those spreading the message of love and compassion. Imagine the profound transformation required for a soul to journey from being part of that violence to choosing incarnation as a gentle companion animal. The decisions made by this spiritual being reveal something extraordinary about forgiveness, growth, and the evolution of consciousness itself. Instead of remaining trapped in patterns of aggression, this soul chose a completely different path, one of service, love, and healing, for the very same human souls it had encountered during those dark times. The hidden truth behind this transformation challenges everything we think we know about spiritual development and second chances. Here was undeniable proof that souls can completely reinvent their expression based on spiritual growth and the changing needs of their soul group. When someone asked Cayce if Luna would always remain a dog, his response opened up possibilities that most people had never even considered. That depends upon the environment. No. This simple statement revealed the fluid nature of animal soul expression. The impact of this revelation is staggering because it suggests that the form an animal soul chooses isn't fixed or limited by previous incarnations. Instead, these beings can adapt their physical expression based on what their human families need most for spiritual growth and healing. Think about the behind-the-scenes spiritual intelligence required for such decisions. Luna's soul had to evaluate the spiritual needs of her human family in 1935 and choose a form that would best serve their journey. They needed gentleness instead of fierceness, comfort instead of protection, and unconditional love instead of survival instincts. So this same spiritual essence that had once embodied power and aggression transformed itself into the perfect vehicle for healing and companionship. This journey of conscious spiritual evolution reveals that animal souls operate with a level of wisdom and adaptability that most humans struggle to achieve. They don't just reincarnate randomly. They make deliberate choices about their form and purpose based on the greatest good for all involved. The mindset shift required to truly understand this concept transforms how we see every animal that enters our lives, because it suggests that each one has specifically chosen their form and timing to serve our highest spiritual development. Write in the comments, conscious soul choices, if you believe your pets have deliberately chosen their forms to serve your spiritual growth. This concept of conscious soul choices leads us into one of the most profound revelations in all of Cayce's work. The discovery that those inexplicably deep connections you feel with certain animals aren't coincidental at all. They're the Recognition of ancient soul partnerships that transcend the apparent boundaries between species. When you look at your pet and feel that sense of coming home, you're actually experiencing soul group recognition that spans multiple lifetimes. The transformation in understanding this brings is revolutionary because it means your animal companion isn't just a pet, they're a spiritual partner who has deliberately chosen to incarnate alongside you to facilitate mutual growth and healing. These soul groups operate like spiritual families, with beings choosing different roles and forms across lifetimes to help each other evolve and learn essential lessons about love, loyalty, and service. The hidden truth about these eternal partnerships becomes even more compelling when you examine the documented evidence. In reading 287-6, a 19-year-old girl discovered that her current pet had been with her during an Egyptian incarnation thousands of years earlier. This wasn't a vague spiritual connection. This was specific, verifiable information about a relationship that had endured across millennia and completely different civilizations. The impact of this revelation forces us to completely reconsider our mindset about the animals that enter our lives. That rescue dog who seemed to choose you at the shelter, that cat who appeared at your door during your darkest hour, that horse who connected with you instantly. These aren't random encounters. They're spiritual reunions orchestrated by souls who have been traveling together through time, taking turns serving each other in different forms and capacities. The behind-the-scenes spiritual mechanics of these soul group relationships reveal a level of planning and purpose that most people never consider. Before incarnation, these beings apparently make decisions about how they can best serve each other's spiritual development. Sometimes they choose to be protectors, sometimes healers, sometimes teachers of unconditional love. This journey of discovery about soul groups traveling together explains why certain animals seem to understand you on levels that defy logical explanation. They're not just responding to your current energy, they're drawing on lifetimes of shared experiences and deep knowledge of your soul's patterns, needs, and growth areas. The documented cases reveal patterns of spiritual partnerships that stretch back thousands of years, suggesting that the bonds we form with our animal companions represent some of the most enduring relationships in our eternal spiritual journey, connections that adapt and transform but never truly end. Write in the comments, soul group recognition, if you've ever felt that instant, inexplicable connection with an animal that felt like coming home. These soul group recognitions manifest in the most unexpected ways throughout our daily lives. Think about how you ended up with your current pet. Was it really just coincidence that you happened to be at that particular shelter on that specific day when that one animal seemed to choose you instead of the other way around? The hidden truth behind these seemingly random encounters reveals a level of spiritual orchestration that most people never consider. That rescue dog who locked eyes with you through the kennel bars might have been actively seeking you across lifetimes, finally recognizing the human soul they've been contracted to serve in this incarnation. That cat who mysteriously appeared at your door during the lowest point in your life might have been fulfilling an ancient soul agreement, arriving precisely when you needed their particular form of healing and companionship most. The intense grief you feel when a beloved pet passes away isn't just emotional attachment to a wonderful companion, it's the deep soul recognition of losing a spiritual partner you've known for centuries. Your heart is mourning the temporary separation from a being who has traveled alongside you through multiple lifetimes, teaching you essential lessons about love, loyalty, and spiritual connection. But here's where this journey into animal consciousness takes an even more profound turn. According to Cayce's readings, these soul partnerships serve a specific spiritual purpose that transforms both human and animal consciousness. Your pets aren't just companions, they're actively serving as spiritual teachers, demonstrating qualities that most humans spend entire lifetimes trying to develop. The impact of this teaching relationship operates on levels that most people never consciously recognize. While you struggle with ego, judgment, fear, and the constant mental chatter that disconnects you from divine consciousness, your animal companions naturally embody the very spiritual qualities you're working so hard to achieve. They live completely in the present moment, express unconditional love without reservation, and maintain that pure connection to creative forces that humans often lose. Behind the scenes of every interaction with your pet, there's a masterclass in spiritual development happening. When your dog greets you with the same enthusiasm, whether you've been gone 5 minutes or 5 hours, they're teaching you about consistency and love. When your cat remains calm during your emotional storms, they're demonstrating inner peace that transcends external circumstances. The decisions these animal teachers make about how to guide your spiritual growth reveal a level of wisdom that operates entirely through example rather than instruction, showing you through their natural behavior what it looks like to live in harmony with divine consciousness. Write in the comments, "My pet is my teacher," if you recognize the spiritual lessons your animal companion has been demonstrating through their natural behavior. This teaching relationship reveals something even more fundamental about the nature of existence itself. Dr. Robert Miller, a holistic veterinarian who spent decades studying Cayce's work, discovered that all living beings share the same essential life force or spirit. This isn't just philosophical speculation. This is a practical understanding that transforms how we approach every relationship in our lives, especially with our animal companions. The hidden truth that emerges from this understanding completely revolutionizes our mindset about coincidence and chance encounters. According to Cayce's readings, no individual meets another by accident. There's always an opportunity for soul development embedded in every relationship we form, and this principle applies just as powerfully to our connections with animals as it does to our human relationships. This means every pet that enters your life arrives with specific lessons designed for your spiritual growth, and simultaneously, you're providing opportunities for their own soul development within the group mind consciousness they operate from. The decisions these spiritual beings make to incarnate with you create a perfect framework for mutual evolution and learning. The impact of recognizing this spiritual partnership extends far beyond typical pet ownership into something much more profound. Your dog isn't just a companion who needs walks and feeding. They're a spiritual partner actively helping you develop patience when they don't come when called, compassion when they're sick or aging, and responsibility for another being's well-being. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for soul growth when you understand the deeper spiritual mechanics at work. Behind the scenes of what appears to be simple pet care, there's actually a sophisticated spiritual practice happening. When you clean up after your cat's accident with love instead of frustration, you're practicing unconditional service. When you remain calm during your dog's anxious moments, you're developing the kind of steady presence that spiritual masters cultivate. This transformation in understanding elevates the most mundane aspects of pet ownership into sacred acts of spiritual development. The journey of caring for an animal companion becomes a daily masterclass in the qualities that connect us to divine consciousness, selfless service, present moment awareness, and love that transcends circumstances. Now, this raises fascinating questions about how these spiritual partnerships extend beyond the purely teaching relationship into something even more extraordinary: the ability of animals to serve as bridges between human consciousness and the divine realms. Write in the comments, "Sacred daily practice," if you're ready to see your pet care routine as spiritual development rather than just responsibility. This sacred partnership extends into realms that modern science is only beginning to understand, but which Edgar Cayce documented nearly a century ago. Because animals operate through that group mind consciousness and maintain their natural connection to divine creative forces, they frequently serve as intuitive messengers and healers for their human families. This isn't mystical speculation. This is practical spiritual reality that manifests in ways you've probably experienced without fully understanding what was happening. Think about the last time your dog seemed to know you were getting sick before you felt any symptoms, or when your cat appeared out of nowhere during an emotional crisis you thought you were hiding well. The hidden truth behind these experiences reveals that your pet is literally operating as a bridge between your disconnected human consciousness and the divine awareness that surrounds us all. The transformation in understanding this brings is profound because it means your animal companion isn't just responding to obvious physical cues. They're reading your energy field, your emotional state, and even your future potential health issues through their maintained connection to universal consciousness. While humans often lose this intuitive ability through overthinking, anxiety, and ego-driven decisions that disconnect us from divine guidance, animals retain their natural spiritual sensitivity. Your pet operates from what we might call a higher spiritual frequency, which explains their seemingly supernatural ability to sense things that escape your conscious awareness. Behind the scenes, they're constantly monitoring not just your physical well-being but your emotional and spiritual state, often providing exactly the kind of comfort, distraction, or healing presence you need before you even realize you need it. The impact of recognizing this divine frequency operation changes everything about how you interpret your pet's behavior. When your dog insists on staying close during your stressful day, they're not just being clingy, they're providing healing energy and spiritual support through their connection to creative forces. When your cat purrs on the exact spot where you're experiencing physical discomfort, they're channeling healing. Vibrations that operate on frequencies science is still discovering. This journey into understanding animal consciousness as a bridge to divine awareness reveals that the decisions these beings make about when and how to provide support are guided by spiritual intelligence that transcends ordinary animal instinct. Now, this leads us to explore how modern science is finally catching up to what Cayce revealed decades ago about the extraordinary healing and intuitive abilities that our animal companions naturally possess. Write in the comments, Divine Frequency Bridge, if you've experienced your pet knowing things about your well-being that seemed impossible for them to detect. The convergence between modern scientific research and Cayce's century-old revelations is nothing short of extraordinary. Today's veterinary and medical research confirms that pets can indeed detect changes in their owner's biochemistry, electromagnetic fields, and even predict medical events like seizures or heart attacks hours before they occur. Dogs trained to detect diabetic episodes, cats who alert families to impending seizures, horses who sense emotional trauma. These aren't just remarkable coincidences. What makes this scientific validation so compelling is that Cayce's readings from nearly a century ago already explained the mechanism behind these abilities. While modern researchers focus on the physical aspects, pheromone detection, electromagnetic sensitivity, and biochemical changes, Cayce revealed the spiritual foundation that makes these capabilities possible. Animals maintain their connection to universal consciousness, allowing them to perceive information that operates beyond the limitations of ordinary sensory experience. The transformation in scientific understanding is finally catching up to what spiritual traditions have always known. Behind the scenes of every miraculous animal detection story, there's a being operating from that group mind consciousness, accessing information through their maintained divine connection rather than just superior senses. But the most profound aspect of this divine frequency operation isn't just the healing and predictive abilities. It's how your animal companion actively serves as a bridge between your often disconnected human consciousness and the divine awareness you've lost touch with. The incredible bond you feel with your pet represents far more than emotional attachment or anthropomorphic projection. According to Cayce's teachings, this bond is actually a spiritual lifeline, with your animal companion serving as a living reminder of what unconditional love feels like when it flows directly from divine consciousness without the mental barriers that humans constantly create. Every moment of pure connection with your pet is actually a moment of reconnection with your own divine nature. The impact of recognizing this bridge function changes everything about how you experience those quiet moments when you're simply being present with your animal companion. The decisions they make about when to offer comfort, when to be playful, when to simply sit in peaceful presence. These aren't random animal behaviors but conscious acts of spiritual service designed to help you remember your own capacity for divine love and presence. This journey of understanding reveals that the healing you experience in your pet's presence isn't just emotional comfort, but actual reconnection with the creative forces that govern all life. Write in the comments, bridge to divine love, if you felt your pet helping you reconnect with a deeper sense of peace and unconditional love. This reconnection with creative forces through our animal companions reveals an even more fascinating layer of consciousness that challenges our understanding of individuality and collective awareness. Cayce's readings acknowledge something that every pet owner instinctively recognizes: your dog's unique quirks, your cat's distinct personality, and your horse's individual temperament aren't just genetic variations or learned behaviors. They represent individual expressions within the collective spiritual consciousness of their species group mind. The transformation in understanding this brings is profound, because it means your pet operates simultaneously as both a unique individual and as part of a vast interconnected spiritual network. Think about how your dog has personality traits that are distinctly theirs, yet they also share behavioral patterns with their entire species. This isn't a contradiction, it's evidence of consciousness operating on multiple levels simultaneously. This framework finally explains phenomena that most people experience but struggle to understand rationally. Why does your cat seem telepathically connected to your emotional state, appearing at exactly the right moment during your darkest hours? Why does your dog seem to know things they shouldn't logically know, like when you're planning to leave town before you've even packed a bag? The hidden truth behind these experiences lies in their maintained connection to divine consciousness, combined with their individual spiritual sensitivity. Behind the scenes, your pet is simultaneously accessing information through the group mind network, while filtering that awareness through their unique personality and specific relationship with you. The impact of this dual consciousness operation means your animal companion can sense your emotional states, upcoming changes, and spiritual needs through channels that operate far beyond ordinary physical perception. The decisions they make about when to provide comfort, when to be playful, or when to simply offer silent presence are guided by both their individual love for you and their access to universal wisdom about what you need most. This journey into understanding how individual expression works within collective consciousness reveals why your pet's timing is often so perfect it seems almost supernatural. They're not just responding to your current energy, they're sensing the flow of events and emotions through spiritual channels that remain open to them. Now, this leads us to explore how this spiritual sensitivity extends beyond just emotional support into something even more remarkable: their ability to serve as guides and healers during the most challenging moments of human experience. Write in the comments, perfect timing always, if you've experienced your pet showing up with exactly what you needed before you even knew you needed it. This perfect spiritual timing extends into areas that reveal just how deeply connected your animal companion is to your overall well-being. Many pet owners describe their animals seeming to know when they're getting sick days before symptoms appear, or sensing emotional distress that they thought they were hiding perfectly. According to Cayce's framework, this isn't just exceptionally keen observation or coincidental behavior. This is genuine spiritual sensitivity that comes from their maintained connection to both divine consciousness and the group mind network. The transformation in understanding what's really happening during these moments changes everything about how you interpret your pet's behavior. When your dog refuses to leave your side on a day when you feel fine but later develop flu symptoms, they're not just being clingy. They're responding to information they're receiving through spiritual channels about your energetic and physical state that operates far beyond ordinary sensory perception. Behind the scenes of these seemingly miraculous moments of animal intuition, there's a level of spiritual sensitivity that most humans have lost through the constant mental noise of worry, planning, and disconnection from present moment awareness. Your pet's ability to sense your emotional and physical states before you're consciously aware of them yourself demonstrates the power of remaining connected to divine consciousness. But this leads us to the question that haunts every pet owner's heart, the one that keeps people awake at night when their beloved companion grows old or becomes ill. Will I see my beloved pet again after death? This isn't just emotional longing. This is the deepest spiritual question about the nature of love, consciousness, and eternal connection. The impact of Cayce's documented readings about animal reincarnation and soul groups provides an answer that offers genuine hope, though perhaps not in the way most people expect. Based on the extensive evidence about animals traveling with their human families across multiple lifetimes, the answer appears to be a resounding yes. However, the hidden truth about how these reunions actually occur reveals possibilities that are far more extraordinary than most people imagine. The decisions made by animal souls about how and when to return to their human families operate through spiritual intelligence that transcends our typical expectations about form, timing, and recognition. The journey of reunion might involve the same spiritual essence choosing completely different physical expressions based on what their human companions need most for continued growth and healing. Write in the comments, "We will meet again," if you believe the bond with your beloved pet transcends physical death and will continue in some form. This concept of reunion through different forms reveals one of the most profound aspects of animal consciousness that Cayce documented. The spiritual bonds formed with our pets don't simply end when their physical bodies can no longer sustain life. Instead, these connections transcend death in ways that mirror how human souls choose to incarnate together across lifetimes, but with the added flexibility that comes from animals' group mind consciousness and their ability to adapt their physical expression. The transformation in understanding this brings is revolutionary, because it means death isn't an ending. It's a transition that opens up new possibilities for continued spiritual partnership. Just as human souls make decisions about when and how to return to support each other's growth, animals who are part of your soul group may choose to return in completely new forms, guided by what will serve your highest spiritual development. Researcher Maria Thompson, who spent years studying Cayce's animal readings, beautifully captures this hidden truth about animal reincarnation. Just as I can imagine human souls hovering over parents, deciding upon their re-entry, I now have an image of our animals doing the same thing. This image transforms everything about how we understand the timing and circumstances of new pets entering our lives. The impact of this soul-hovering concept reveals that behind the scenes of every animal adoption, every rescue encounter, every unexpected appearance of a new pet, there might be conscious spiritual beings choosing optimal circumstances for reunion with their beloved human families. The decisions these souls make about timing, form, and approach operate through spiritual intelligence that considers not just your readiness to love again, but what type of companion will best serve your continued spiritual growth. This journey of understanding means that when you feel drawn to a particular animal at a shelter, when a stray appears at your door, or when you find yourself unexpectedly caring for an animal in need, you might be experiencing a carefully orchestrated spiritual reunion. The mindset shift required to recognize these encounters as potential soul reconnections, rather than random coincidences, opens up possibilities that most people never consider. The revelations about how animal souls choose their re-entry points suggest a level of spiritual planning and purpose that operates far beyond our typical understanding of animal behavior and human-pet relationships. Now, this leads us to explore the signs and synchronicities that might indicate when these spiritual reunions are actually taking place. Write in the comments, "Spiritual reunion recognition," if you've ever wondered whether a new pet in your life might be a beloved companion returning in a different form. These spiritual reunions manifest in ways that challenge our expectations about how recognition actually works between souls. That beloved German Shepherd who passed away might choose to return as a rescue kitten if what you need now is gentleness and healing rather than protection and loyalty. The same spiritual essence that once provided strength during difficult times might decide that your current life circumstances require a completely different form of companionship and support. The transformation in understanding this brings is profound because it means recognition doesn't come through physical similarity or obvious behavioral matches. Instead, it comes through that deep spiritual connection that transcends form. The same feeling of coming home you experienced with your previous companion, but now expressed through an entirely different species or personality type. Dr. Robert Miller, who spent decades documenting these phenomena in his veterinary practice, shares cases that would seem impossible if viewed through purely scientific frameworks. He describes pets who seem to carry specific behavioral traits, preferences, or even physical markings that mirror beloved animals who had passed away. While conventional science dismisses these as coincidence or wishful thinking, Cayce's framework suggests something far more extraordinary: genuine spiritual continuity expressed through new physical forms. The hidden truth behind these documented cases reveals that animal souls retain memory patterns and preferences that can manifest in their new incarnations. Behind the scenes, the same spiritual essence that once loved a particular toy, preferred certain sleeping spots, or had unique ways of showing affection might choose to express these same qualities through their new physical form as a way of helping their human family recognize the connection. The impact of understanding this spiritual continuity changes everything about how you approach new animals in your life. That rescued puppy who immediately gravitates toward your departed cat's favorite blanket, that kitten who responds to your previous dog's name, or that horse who seems to know your routine without training. These behaviors might not be random quirks, but deliberate signs of soul recognition. The decisions these returning souls make about how to reveal their identity operate through subtle spiritual communication that requires openness and intuitive awareness rather than logical analysis. The journey of recognition often unfolds gradually through accumulated experiences that feel spiritually familiar rather than through dramatic, obvious signs. Now, this leads us to explore the specific synchronicities and timing patterns that often accompany these spiritual reunions, revealing how animal souls orchestrate their return to maximize recognition and healing. Write in the comments, "I recognize the signs," if you've experienced behavioral traits or preferences in a new pet that reminded you of a beloved companion who had passed. These gradual recognition patterns often combine with more immediate signs that can be absolutely stunning in their clarity. Have you ever adopted an animal who seemed to already know your daily routines, gravitating toward your previous pet's favorite spots in the house, or responding to names they'd never heard before? According to Cayce's teachings about soul groups traveling together, these instant recognition behaviors could be genuine spiritual memory expressing itself through new physical forms. The transformation in understanding these signs requires a complete shift in mindset about what animals are capable of remembering and expressing. Across incarnations, that rescue dog who immediately knows which door leads to the backyard, that cat who settles into your departed pet's favorite sleeping spot without hesitation, or that horse who responds to commands in ways that seem impossible for their age or training. These behaviors might represent soul memory activating through spiritual recognition rather than coincidental learning. The hidden truth behind these instant connections reveals the sophisticated spiritual intelligence that guides animal reincarnation decisions. The same spiritual essence that once served as your loyal protector might evaluate your current life circumstances and recognize that what you need now is gentleness and healing rather than strength and guardianship. So they choose to return as a completely different species, whose natural qualities match your evolved spiritual needs. Behind the scenes of this decision-making process, there's a level of spiritual wisdom that most humans struggle to achieve. These souls don't just return randomly. They assess your growth, your current challenges, your emotional state, and your capacity for different types of relationships. The impact of this conscious choice-making means every animal that enters your life has specifically selected their form and timing to provide exactly what will serve your highest development. The journey of understanding how spiritual needs determine physical form reveals why your departed German Shepherd might choose to return as a gentle rescue cat if your life now requires lessons in patience, tenderness, and receiving rather than giving protection. The decisions these souls make demonstrate an understanding of spiritual development that operates far beyond simple emotional attachment. This level of conscious spiritual service extends even into the timing and circumstances of their appearance, revealing patterns of synchronicity that seem almost too perfect to be coincidental, but make complete sense when viewed through the lens of soul group planning. Now this brings us to explore the most profound synchronicities that often accompany these spiritual reunions, the timing patterns that reveal just how carefully these encounters are orchestrated. Write in the comments, perfect spiritual timing, if you've experienced an animal entering your life at exactly the moment you needed their particular type of companionship and healing. The orchestration of these spiritual reunions becomes even more remarkable when you examine the synchronicities that surround their timing. Many pet owners report finding new companions on dates that hold deep significance: the anniversary of their previous pet's passing, their own birthday, or during moments when they had just reached emotional readiness to love again. According to Cayce's readings, these aren't accidents or coincidences, but carefully orchestrated spiritual reunions designed to maximize recognition and healing. The transformation in understanding these timing patterns reveals the sophisticated spiritual intelligence that operates behind what appears to be chance encounters. When that perfect rescue animal becomes available exactly when your heart has healed enough to be open, when you happen to visit a shelter on the day that a particular animal needs a home, or when a stray appears at your door during your darkest hour, these synchronicities suggest planning that operates far beyond ordinary cause and effect. The hidden truth about these perfectly timed encounters emerges when you consider the level of spiritual coordination required to align circumstances, readiness, and availability across multiple beings and situations. Behind the scenes, there's a network of consciousness working to create optimal conditions for soul group reunions that serve everyone's highest development. But perhaps the most compelling evidence of these spiritual reunions comes through what many people describe as instant soul recognition. That moment when you look into a new pet's eyes and feel an overwhelming sense of welcome home that defies logical explanation. According to Cayce's framework, this instant recognition might be soul memory activating across lifetimes, confirming that you're indeed being reunited with a spiritual companion you've known before. The impact of experiencing this soul memory activation can be emotionally overwhelming because it's not just meeting a new animal. It's the recognition of an ancient friendship that has transcended death and transformation. The decisions made by these returning souls to reveal themselves through eye contact and energetic connection operate through the most direct spiritual communication possible. This journey of recognition often happens in that first moment of contact, when something deeper than personality or appearance creates an immediate bond that feels like coming home after a long absence. The revelations that unfold through these moments of soul memory activation provide the clearest confirmation that love truly transcends all boundaries. Now, this profound understanding of animal reincarnation and soul recognition leads us to explore what might be the most extraordinary aspect of Cayce's teachings about pet consciousness. Write in the comments, soul memory activated, if you've ever experienced that instant welcome home feeling when meeting a new animal companion. The most extraordinary aspect of Cayce's teachings about animal consciousness emerged when someone asked if they could obtain a life reading for Luna herself. Cayce's response was both fascinating and humbling. It could be done, but no one would understand it unless they first learned dog language. This seemingly simple statement opens up profound implications about the complexity of animal spiritual experiences and forms of communication that operate far beyond human comprehension. The transformation in understanding this brings is revolutionary, because it suggests that our pets aren't just receiving spiritual guidance. They're actively processing their own complex spiritual experiences, making their own soul-level decisions, and communicating through channels that humans have barely begun to recognize. The hidden truth behind Cayce's dog language comment reveals that animals possess rich inner spiritual lives that operate on frequencies and through communication systems we haven't yet learned to decode. Behind the scenes of every interaction with your pet, there might be spiritual conversations happening that would astound you if you could access them. The decisions your animal companion makes about how to serve your spiritual development, when to provide comfort, and how to express their own soul purpose might be guided by spiritual experiences far more sophisticated than most humans achieve. This journey into understanding animal consciousness reveals that recognizing the deeper spiritual existence of our pets leads to more complete healing attitudes and enhanced well-being for both animals and humans. When you acknowledge that your dog or cat has their own spiritual purpose, their own soul experiences, and their own relationship with divine consciousness, everything about your interaction transforms. The impact of this recognition extends into how you approach veterinary care, training, daily routines, and even end-of-life decisions. Instead of seeing your pet as a dependent creature requiring your protection, you begin to recognize them as a spiritual being with their own agenda, their own lessons to learn, and their own contributions to make to the spiritual development of everyone in their soul group. The revelations about the complexity of animal spiritual existence force us to completely reconsider our mindset about intelligence, consciousness, and the nature of spiritual communication itself. If animals are processing their own rich spiritual experiences through forms of awareness we can't yet comprehend, what does this mean for how we should approach our relationships with them? Now, this understanding of animals as complex spiritual beings with their own inner lives leads us to explore how we can practically apply these insights to enhance our current relationships with our beloved companions. Write in the comments, "Rich spiritual beings," if you're ready to recognize your pet as having their own complex spiritual experiences and inner life beyond what you can currently understand. This recognition of animals as complex spiritual beings fundamentally transforms our understanding of what creates the bonds between souls across time and space. The most profound implication of Cayce's teachings isn't just that animals reincarnate or that they have spiritual experiences. It's that love itself serves as the eternal binding force that transcends physical death and connects souls across lifetimes, regardless of the forms they choose to inhabit. The transformation in understanding this brings us to a revelation that changes everything about grief, loss, and the nature of eternal connection. That intense love you feel for your pet isn't just emotional attachment to a wonderful companion. It's spiritual recognition of a bond that has been building and deepening across centuries of shared experiences. The decisions you make to care for, protect, and cherish your animal companion are adding to an eternal spiritual record that nothing can erase. When you lose a beloved pet, you're not experiencing the end of a relationship. You're experiencing temporary separation, while their soul continues its journey of growth and service. The hidden truth behind this separation is that every moment of love shared, every act of care provided, every instance of mutual comfort and healing becomes part of your permanent spiritual record together. Behind the scenes of what appears to be loss, there's actually a continuation of connection that operates through the eternal nature of love itself. The impact of understanding this transforms grief from despair into a different kind of longing. The recognition that your spiritual bond with this being has become part of who you are at the deepest soul level. The journey of love that you've shared with your animal companions creates spiritual ties that may very well draw you together again in future lifetimes, ensuring that no genuine love is ever truly broken or lost. The revelations about soul groups traveling together suggest that these reunions aren't just possible. They're part of the natural flow of spiritual evolution and mutual service. This understanding means that every pet who has touched your heart has left an permanent imprint on your soul's development, and you have done the same for them. The mindset shift required to truly grasp this concept opens up possibilities about eternal connection that extend far beyond our current physical experience. Now, this brings us to the practical question that naturally emerges from all these revelations. How should this understanding change the way you relate to your current animal companions and approach the relationships that may be waiting for you in the future? Write in the comments, "Eternal love connections," if you believe the bonds with your pets create permanent spiritual ties that transcend physical death and will continue across lifetimes. This journey through Edgar Cayce's revelations about pet souls and eternal connections has been profound. And if you've stayed with me through all of these discoveries, you're clearly someone who recognizes that the relationships we share with our animal companions operate on levels far deeper than most people ever consider. The understanding that love creates permanent spiritual bonds, that our pets choose us across lifetimes, and that they serve as bridges to divine consciousness. These aren't just comforting thoughts. They're documented insights that can transform how you experience every moment with your beloved companions. If these revelations have resonated with your own experiences and intuitions about the animals in your life, I'd love for you to join our community by subscribing to the channel. The content we explore here goes beyond surface-level spiritual concepts into the documented teachings and practical wisdom that can genuinely enhance your understanding of consciousness, relationships, and the eternal nature of love itself. Let me know you made it all the way through this exploration by commenting, "Love transcends all forms," below. It means something when someone stays engaged with these deeper spiritual concepts from beginning to end, and I genuinely appreciate you taking this journey with me into understanding the profound nature of our animal companions. If this content has touched your heart or opened your mind to new possibilities about the spiritual bonds you share with your pets, a like on this video helps ensure these insights reach other people who are ready for this level of understanding about consciousness and eternal connection. There's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly, exploring how to recognize and strengthen your intuitive communication with animals while they're still in physical form with you. Click and continue with me over there, because once you understand the eternal nature of these relationships, learning to deepen your current connections becomes the natural next step in your spiritual journey together.